never say, IRIE News Network are the best.
IRIE News Network, now stop play. IRIE News Network, now stop play.
A straight reggae dance, all news we a give them.
People lucky in all over the world, every country and town. IRIE keep the music blazing. IRIE News Network, you see that? I eat that.
Welcome to IRIE News Network. A special welcome to my returning listeners, and welcome also to those tuning in for the first time. Please watch the video to the end, and remember to like, share, and subscribe. Click on the notification bell so you can be notified when a new video has been released. Well, anyone who is following what is happening in the political atmosphere cannot deny that there have been some spooky things that have been unveiling. First was the removal of our DPP Paula Llewellyn, and that in itself made way for the release of Vybz Kartel, right? And then we would see Vybz Kartel showing up at the PNP conference. With that in itself was something that everybody is talking about. I don't think anybody even remembers what Marky G was talking about. Everybody was just focused on Vybz Kartel showing up at the conference. And there also was Isaac Buchanan. And, now Isaac Buchanan has made it known, or the PNP has decided that Isaac Buchanan will be running for the Portland seat over there that is now controlled by Action Ann. So I don't know what actions Anne-Marie Valls will have to pull out, but she will definitely have to come up with an action plan to combat what is happening there over in the PNP camp, because there is a buzz over there, the excitement is there, and the persons have thrown common sense to the wind, and they are not paying any attention on what this PNP government will try to do, what their manifesto is, what are the changes that they may apply as it relates to the happenings in the country, the runnings of the country. Nobody cares about that. Everybody seems to be focusing on the entertainment side of things. So politics has now become an entertainment fiasco. But is Andrew Holness guilty? Or is he not guilty of all that they are saying as it relates to monies and the 28 bank accounts? Well, I have unearthed another story for you, which will break down again and explain what some findings are as it relates to Andrew Holness. But before we get into that, I'm going to bring to you a story that I get from credible source as it relates to some guns being found in the St. Catherine area. So this story is fresh off the press, so I'm going through it for the first time. Anyways, here are the details. Between the hours of 3:50 a.m. and 5:25 a.m. on the 5th of the 10th, 2024, acting on information, Deputy Sergeant K. Wilson led an operation comprising of Corporal M. Beepats, Area 5 OSU team, Corporal C. Winters, South OST, and the Central Village Domestic Patrol to a legally held party that was being held at 1 Central Village Road, Big Lane, Central Village, St. Catherine, and conducted a snap raid. During the process, all patrons on the premises were thoroughly searched. 4 firearms and 57 9mm rounds, namely, first one Black Bertha Thunder Serial 69 5711 loaded with 17 9mm rounds. Second, Black and Silver 9mm Luger serial number erased, loaded with 14 9mm rounds. Third, Red and Gray 9mm Taurus PT809E serial number, TGS98288, loaded with 15 9mm rounds and 4 1 mini submachine gun with serial number erased, loaded with 11 9mm rounds, were found to the exterior of the premises. No one was arrested as a result of the find. The scene was visited by St. Catherine's South DDO Inspector Russell. The firearms and ammunitions were processed by Corporal J. Brooks of the St. Catherine South Scene of Crime Unit. The matter is being investigated by Deputy Constable C. Gillespie at the Central Village CIB. So I'm happy for that findings. At least some of those weapons and ammos have been taken off the streets, which means that some lives have been saved. So win-win for the people and a big loss for the criminal entities. Thank you to the police officers. So as you all know, negativity sells. There is just a bunch of negative people everywhere. If you are not careful, these people will get you depressed and discouraged from anything that you try to put your hands to. And it even goes for our Prime Minister and his team as they are trying to, I think, do some good. I'm not going to say they're doing their best, but do some good, and many times it's been overlooked and we don't give them the credit that they deserve. So I saw this video and I decided that it is imperative that I share it with you. All right, so take a look. It's not long.
Under this system, Madam Speaker, the real benefit is that we will have one set of patient record from birth until your demise. Begins with the philosophy of
one patient,
one record. It allows shorter transaction time and less transaction cost. Wherever a patient goes, the record will follow. No more paper-based records, which will improve treatment in terms of diagnosis, the patient history, what they're allergic to, what procedures they did before, and allow our medical team to prescribe in a much faster time for earlier recovery. So this is real modernization, the first in the Caribbean, Jamaica being the first, and ultimately both the staff and the patients will benefit for it.
We're at the Buff Bay District Health Center where we are about to unveil the premises.
1, 2, 4, 3.
So welcome to our waiting area. This is where the clients would come and sit, and then we would usher them to their respective areas.
I like the camera, the security cameras, that's cool.
Very, very impressive.
Our assessment room, our breastfeeding room, a midwife office, public health nurse's office, or isolation room.
So the trauma bay is for emergency cases?
emergency case.
What's your opening hours?
8:30 till 5.
Where does someone go if they have a trauma case outside of the bay? Okay.
This new one is equipped with a X-ray. We were given a ambulance.
This is our asthma bay.
This is for the female staff and the male staff bathroom.
Well, here you have it. You have the old, which was serving a purpose, very important purpose. And you have the new. Turn and look at the new. The new Buffet Health Center. All right.
All right, so let's big up the Prime Minister and his team and the Ministry of Health for what they have done. It's a positive look and it's a good and refreshing spin to all the negativity that has been swirling out there. And if this is something that they are doing to combat some of that negative spotlight that has been turned on them recently, then I think it's a good look, and I think it is also welcomed, because while they are making themselves happy or doing some damage control, I am certain that the staff and the patients will also appreciate and benefit from what they are doing. All right, so without further ado, I'm going to be getting into this video now, and I would like you to listen to it closely, and after that you can make your judgments as to what you think. Right, I find this video very, very informative. I like the way how she does her presentation, how she breaks down the information, and I really appreciate that I can watch it and learn. It's really refreshing. It is not riddled with propaganda as I would see in a lot of other videos that I have been watching. And so that is why I decided that I would like to share this video with you. So please stay tuned and watch to the end.
An unadulterated, shameless witch hunt? Or was it a mistake? They employed an overseas forensic accounting examiner to conduct an independent examination into Holness's declarations and failed to tell the Parliament what was the findings of that forensic examiner. What is more, they are now seeking to ask the FID to do the same investigations that the forensic examiner did. I understand they paid something to the order of 200,000 United States dollars for that examination. If it is true, that will be something in the order of 30 million Jamaican dollars to get what they call an independent analysis of the Prime Minister's declarations. That is implying that they did not trust any local people to do it because, he's a Prime Minister after all, and his influence is far and wide, and maybe they don't think that there's anybody else in Jamaica with integrity but them. They didn't trust the FID, so they went abroad to find an expert, and now that the expert has turned up a response or answers that they may not be satisfied with, they are now seeking to go to the FID in hope, I suppose, that they will get from the FID a response that they are looking for. Now, I have lots more for you. You will recall that this all started for Andrew Holness going downhill when they discovered that he had 3 accounts, 2 First Global Bank accounts, as well as NCB accounts that were, not declared in his statutory declarations of 2021-2022. Those accounts were dormant, and for some reason he left it off. They then said, okay, it was inadvertent, and gave him an opportunity to amend his 2021 statutory declarations. Now, the Director of Investigations had told the Director of Information and Complaints that he would like him, or he recommended that he would like him to thoroughly investigate the new and amended statutory declaration that Holness was going to submit, and that he did. When he did, he found what he called $4.4 million of unexplained growth in his net worth for that year, and it appeared to him that Andrew Holness owned assets disproportionate to his lawful earnings for that declaration period. So he naturally referred the matter to the commissioners with a request that they should refer the matter to the Director of Investigations for further investigations to see why it is that Holness's assets were disproportionate to his lawful income. They were seeking to establish whether or not there was corruption involved under Section 14.5, which is illicit enrichment. They already found that he had 4 more accounts. This is after he submitted the amended 2021 declaration. They found 4 more accounts that he had not declared. But 3 of them he was a joint account holder with his parents, 2 accounts with his mother, 1 account with his father, and another account with a constituent. And they asked him to explain, and he did. Now, by leaving off those accounts, it meant that he had made false statements on his declaration by omission. So he was being investigated for the second time for that, as well as illicit enrichment on the basis that he owned assets which was not proportionate to his lawful earnings. And that was what started it. So, as a reminder, I am going to read for you the referral from the commissioners to the Director of Investigations so we can remind ourselves, and then we get into it. So this was what was referred to the Director of Investigations. This was what he was supposed to have been investigating. Remember, we established that the law suggested, at least in our interpretation, that he can only act on referral. So he quoted from the referral that was given to him by the commissioners. The declarant's net worth, which is Andrew Holness, the declarant's net worth was calculated based on information that was included on statutory declaration for the year ended 2021 and additional information provided by the declarant. And you remember that they had asked him some questions from the first investigation was done for false statements, making false statements on his declarations by omission when he left off the 3 accounts. All right? So they asked him some questions, and having gleaned some information, they now saying that based upon what he said in the statutory declaration, what they found out from him from the interview, January 12, I believe, 2023, net worth grew by $51.5 million over the 5-year period that ended December 31, 2021. So they are saying his net worth grew by $51.5 million. This calculation includes the conversion of income and net worth from US to Jamaican dollars, meaning to say in order for them to make the comparison, they converted what he had in his US accounts and his US bonds and so on and stocks into Jamaican dollars so that they can compare. They now said, after they've done all of that and do the comparison, unexplained changes in net worth was calculated as $4.491 million. I want you to remember that number. Write it down quick, all right? $4,491,798.43, and that they said was the net effect for the year ended 2021. Now, listen to this now. Although the declarant's net worth appeared to align with income for some years, so they have no problem with him, the growth of the net assets of companies for which the declarants and close family members are majority shareholders and the actual contributions of the minority shareholders need to be examined. Increase, I think we need to go do some checks. Why? Because it's not only him and his families in it are involved with those companies, but also other persons who they call minority shareholders. They need to know what was the actual contributions of those minority shareholders. Because as was discovered, the minority shareholders, even though their shares was, like in the case of Mr. Brown with Estate Bridge, his shareholding was 2,000 shares in Estate Bridge. Andrew Holness' sister at the time was 2,000 shares, and Andrew Holness had something like 4,001 or 5,001 shares. So when you add his sister and him together, they were the major shareholders, and Mr. Brown was the minority shareholder. But you see, when you look at the actual contribution, it was Mr. Brown who made 61 million, and Andrew's contribution and his sister, including the land that they were developing, which belonged to Holness, that came up to 58 million. So they did right by asking him to go check that out. But as you can recall, he went and delved into all sorts of stuff about source of income and all of that. These things were checked before, you know. Him come back and ask again, and we know the story. All right. So this now is the foundation. This is where it began. Note that 4 million now. Let me note it as well. But we need to turn our attention to now that $1.9 million increase in his net worth that they said was disproportionate to his lawful income. Let us see if that is so or whether or not there was another mistake made. Now, you must remember, Imperium is the key, the monies and the assets coming from ADMAT, which was already vetted by the integrity commissions of the past as lawful, and the income and source of income would have been checked and found to be lawful. Those assets and the monies were transferred to Imperium. And what this report has done is shown that the monies, assets, and so on, liabilities that were associated with Imperium were legit. And so when Imperium invested in the other two companies, Estate Bridge as well as Positive Media, it meant that they were sourced and resourced by legitimate funds. And since the present inquiries about Andrew Holness's increased there, you are looking at Table 8, Summary of Assets and Liabilities taken from Imperium's financial statements for the years 2021 and 2022. So the information that you're seeing here is what they extracted from the audited accounts of Imperium, prepared by the accounting firm McKinley. I do believe it's called McKinley and Associates. So what this is showing, the financial statements, that the total assets for 2021 was 278 million, and that went down to 274 million. So he lost 4 million in total assets, 4.4 million in fact. And the assets include his property in Shenstone up in Beverly Hills. The financial assets would be his stocks and bonds and so on. The investments that were made by Imperium into the sister companies, Estate Bridge and Positive Media. Then you now take out of that the liabilities, and that included the margin loans that he got from Barita and NCB Capital Market to the tune of 70 million. That was in 2021. And then I want you to pay close attention to this part now. It's called the capital contributions. So as you can see, the capital contribution for 2021 was $179 million. And it increased to $185 million in 2022. That gave you an increase of $5,946,409. Pay close attention to that. Very important. Included in this capital contribution, you'll see below that primary shareholder contribution. And that moved from 54 million to 60 million. Now, who is a primary shareholder in this Imperium company? Yes, Andrew Holness. He alone is the shareholder. So this increased contribution came from him. That means he injected some capital into the company in 2022. What was that amount? What was his increased contribution? Well, when you minus the 54.4 million and change from the 60.4 million and change, the net amount you get is, guess what? $5,946,409. In other words, the increase that you see here in the capital contribution from 179.8 million to 185.7 million, and you're going to see it again. I'm going to show you, right? That increase was attributed 100% by the $5,946,409 contribution by Andrew Holness himself. Why is that important? Let me show you. We are now going to go to Appendix 2, Summary of Assets, Liabilities, and Income based on statutory declarations submitted. That is what Andrew submitted. So let me now turn to the relevant section. So this which you're looking at is under the heading Business Investments in Jamaican Dollars. And I want you to look over to the right where you see me highlight and underline it in red. That represents the year 2021 and 2022. And as you can see, there is a reference to that 179.8 million and the increase to 185.7 million. They are putting the capital contributions here and they're listing it as what? Assets. So that when Andrew Holness's contribution increased the capital contribution by 5.9 million, it is being reflected here in his 2022 statutory declaration as an increase in the assets of the company. And this is now where they are going to now look at the income that he received for that period and whether or not the increase in assets, net of course from the liabilities, which now gives you the net worth, whether or not the net worth increase is proportionate to his lawful income. You following that? In other words, now that they realize that there was a net worth increase in his assets, they now need to determine whether that net worth increase was as a result of increased income of the declarant, which is Andrew Holness. Now, at the bottom of the page, you see that total assets. The total assets for 2022, when you convert the US dollars to Jamaican, is 201 million. So the increase in capital contribution made by Holness would have increased the total assets of the company as well. You understand? Great, great, great. So taking a look at this page, you can see that the total liabilities of Andrew Holness was 1.6 million. He had reduced it by about 14 million. When you take this 1.6 million now from the 201 million, the net worth would be 198.7 million. We are now going to turn our attention now to the income because it's the income that is supposed to be funding the increased activities. And as you can see for the last column, they have his salary, his parliamentary salary as 9.4 million. And they are not showing you that he got income from any other source. Not in US dollars, not from any stocks and bonds and so on. So he had not had any other income according to them except his salary. And that is 9.4 million. And this is the gross. So what they're going to do is to take out the taxes and everything that he would have. Combined assets, liabilities, and income of Andrew Holness, ADBAT Incorporated, and Imperium Investments Holding Limited. And that's for the period 2020 to 2021 and 2022. Now, the troublesome period, of course, is 2022, where you see at the bottom that there is a difference in the increase of assets and reported income, which is a net worth they wanted to be accounted for of 1.9 million. Let's see if we can now find where they may have made an error and came up with this figure. Because remember, all of his sources have been shown to be legal based on the report that you would have read and heard of. Therefore, anywhere this 1.9 million is, it has to come out of legitimate sources. It's just that them don't know where to find it. But let us look and see if we can find it here, you and I. Okay. So just to make it a little bigger for you, I increase the size so you can follow me. All right, so you're looking over in the last column, which is 2022, the troublesome years, right? And you see that it says that the total assets that Andrew had declared for 2022, remember, we haven't seen that yet, So we're getting a little glimpse into what his declaration of 2022 and 2021 was. So in 2022, the total assets was 255 million. You're going to minus from that now his total liabilities of 54, and that's how you got the 201 million. Everything is now converted into Jamaican dollars, okay? Now, when you minus now the 201 million from the 191 million, which was the net assets for Andrew and the companies in 2021, you take the two away, and that is how you arrive now at the increase in growth of his assets in 2022. So that was $9,454,402.98. And that was his increase in assets in 2022 over what he had in 2021. Okay. Now it is from this now they need to now know if Andrew Holness had income that covered this 9.4 million increase. Look at what they did. I want you to look now at the total income reported. Hear what I'm saying now? Total income reported by the declarant in 2022, 6.7 million. That's the net of his salary. And then they added the companies. But look at what they did. They added the company's profit or loss of 758,000, which is what the company made. When you take into account the income that the company made and take that from the liabilities, the costs and expenses and so on, the net profit was 758,000. When they added it to his salary, they said that he had an income of 7.5 million. And when you take that 7.5 million now from the 9.4, that's where you ended up with a 1.9 million shortfall. And here is where the fatal miscalculation, I believe, took place. This is where the fatal miscalculation took place, and they arrived at this alleged shortfall, which gave rise to this illicit enrichment, which the forensic SMADI Afarin couldn't find, and the investigator couldn't find. I know them a hope say FID will find it, but FID will not find it. And I can tell you now, I am calling it, Mr. Hughes, Mr. Cliff Hughes. Me a call it, and me know nobody not call me blunderbuss, because I believe that we are onto something. And so me a call it, that not before long an announcement will be made by the Integrity Commission that they will be certifying Andrew Holness's 2021 and 2022 statutory declarations for sure. Very possibly 2023 as well, because I do believe it was part of the probe. So we're now back to the IC report 5.8.96. And here, the Director of Investigations gave us some very, very important pieces of information, which helps us, I do believe, to resolve this puzzle, but evidently did not help him at all. And this very important, this critical piece of information came from the auditors. And let me read the sections that I underlined. The financial statements obtained, however, from the auditors for Imperium indicate that in 2021 and 2022, Imperium earned 5.1 million and 6.5 million respectively in dividend, exchange gains, interest, and other income. In other words, the company made some income as well. They made income, and this amounts to $11.6 million in income over the 2-year period. And the critical period that we are interested in is the year 2022, and it had earned an income of 6.5 million that year. Now, I should have told you, or I shall tell you now, that the capital gains, the increase that Andrew Holness had made, actually was his salary. I do believe somewhere in the report he had said to the investigator that the source of funding for Imperium, part of it was his salary. So his salary would have been going into the bank account number 66, because that is a Jamaican one. And in the accounts of Imperium, it will be reflected as capital contribution by the primary shareholder. You understand? Great. So every year he puts his salary in there, or every month that he puts his salary in there, his capital contribution will be increasing. All right, you get that? Great. So now we know that for 2022, Imperium received an income of $6.5 million. Now, why is this important? Because that should have been added to his salary as the total income that he received for that year. Why do I say that? Because Andrew Holness is Imperium and Imperium is Andrew Holness. He's the sole shareholder. And just as they had to go into the accounts to get the salary, to determine the income, they had to go into the accounts and take out the dividend, exchange gains, interest, and other income that the company received as income as well. That is not rocket science. That's simple logic. In other words, just as his salary is attributable to him, and any increase in his assets which may give rise to illicit enrichment is also attributable to him, so must the income that the company receives be attributable to him in order to calculate whether or not his total income and that of the company accounts for any increase in their net assets and by extension in their net worth. Because the purpose of this is a test. It is a test to see whether or not there is illicit enrichment, whether the assets exceeds the income. That's what it is. It's a test, and therefore you must take all of the components of the test, put them together, and then you will arrive at the truth. Because if Imperium did not exist at all, then what they would have been looking at is his salary of 6.7 million. This income that came in of 6.5 million would have been added to his salary for a total income of $13,295,295.18. That would have been his total income had there not been an Imperium, right? And all his assets, his bonds and stocks and his properties were in his name. That is what the account would reflect. And that is what would have been in his statutory declaration for 2022. Now, when you take now the net assets increase of $9,454,402.98, when you take that out of his total income, what you have is that his income exceeds the net worth increase by $3,840,892.20. When the parliamentarians are calling the IC commissioners today, and you know that all of the other persons, such as Greg Christie and Stevenson and Beresford and the prosecutor, they will all be present as well. They also need to call a chartered accountant and verify or disprove what I have said here. They should have added the earnings from...
Well, what do you think? She said she call it, She said she know that the Prime Minister will be redeemed, right? And she said she know she not wrong like Cliff. So what do you think? Do you agree with her after all that she has said and how she broke everything down? Do you think that the Prime Minister will be redeemed and his name will be cleared? Or do you think that there are still some things out there that needs to be answered? Alright, you can just drop your comments in the comment section, and please keep your comments respectful. Alright, follow the YouTube guidelines as well. And as usual, remember to like, share, and subscribe to my video. Have yourselves a wonderful and productive day. Thank you.